and welcome back to the Reapers. So we're cracking on with our A-10 Charlie. It's going to take a while because it's got millions of systems on it. Today we're looking at the TGP, the Litening pod, the targeting pod. So you said we have to warm it up, Shem.
Yes, so below your MFCD on the left, you've got your switches like your master arm, your gun arm, your laser arm, and your TGP on switch. You have to turn that on first before it'll even work.
Roger, do I need any of my other arms on just to use the pod?
No.
Roger.
Since it is not a weapon, it is not required.
I should say as well, to get the pod to load, we had to go to the loading page on this left MFD, and we had to then load the equipment and then go to DSMS to check the Lightning pod had loaded okay.
That's more to do with the actual weapons management. We'll go into that in more detail when we do dumb weapons. For now, go to the TGP page. You should see some of the symbology coming up with the words "not timed out" displayed at the moment. Right, so while we wait for that to happen, I suggest we take off and we'll get ourselves into an altitude hold orbit.
Cap ready.
Spooling up. No, you don't Nosewheel Steering. Don't do that to me, please.
No crashy.
Not planning to. Rotate. Bear in mind, you're probably going to be faster than me because you aren't carrying much of a load.
Slowing down.
Gear up. I'd tell you my speed, but currently the sun is blinding my HUD. Alright, let's continue on. Let's see, it's still going through the loading phase on the TGP, that's fine.
Roger, I better get some altitude for safety anyway.
Yeah, that's the plan. We'll just continue orbiting in a climbing orbit until we can set it to altitude hold. Okay, if you look down at your TGP for a short second, you'll see that the it's now got a black screen on standby at the top, which means it's basically ready to go whenever you want to activate it. We'll get into that once we've set up the orbit.
It says not soy, so it's not selected sensor.
You'll see that actually on both screens at the moment. It's basically a big reminder saying to you that basically that sensor is not being controlled by the system. Okay, I'm gonna set us into an orbit now, beginning autopilot now.
I'm gonna back off so I don't conflict with you at all.
That my speed's 230 and climbing at the moment.
Roger, cap is going, so that's altitude hold we want, isn't it?
Correct.
Right, settled.
Okay, so now we're settled. If you look at the TGP page on the top, you have 4 buttons. Control, which is sort of an options mode that you can set. Air to ground, standby, which is the current mode, and air to air. We're interested in air to ground at the moment, so click that button.
Why would it have air to air? Surely all you've got is ball-sighted sidewinders.
The targeting pod is designed to be used by multiple aircraft, including, for example, the F-16, which can slew the targeting pod onto its radar track.
Oh, interesting. Okay, air to ground selected. Oh my goodness. Okay, it is a television camera of sorts.
Yes, it is. It has 3 modes of display. It has got standard television camera, like you have at the moment. You can also set it to either black hot or white hot thermal vision. Now, disclaimer at the moment, in the current branch of open beta, the thermal vision is not working as intended. I believe the fix will be up in the next open beta patch. So there are a number of other things to note. If you look back up on the HUD, you should see a little diamond currently sitting center of the screen.
Yeah, I do. I see him. Is that the television camera where it's pointing?
Yes, that represents where it's targeting in space.
Roger.
Let's see. In the top right, you should see something that says LSS, which is Laser Spot Search, just like you would do in the Harrier. If you look at the bottom, you'll see the laser code and the coordinates of the targeted position.
Which is constantly moving, obviously, because we're moving, yeah.
Yes, well, Yeah, so remember what I told you about how to designate stuff on the map using soy, SPI, and on the HUD?
Mm-hmm.
That's the same way buttons you use for designating with the camera here.
So the
also,
way...
quick look.
Yep.
If you quickly set your TAD page on the left, you'll notice that there's a slightly larger diamond moving around the map as well. That's also telling you where your targeting pod is looking.
See it? Yeah, it's ahead by a mile or so, yep.
Yeah, so that's where your targeting pod is on the map. So very useful because you can get a sort of a 3D picture of exactly where your pod is looking.
Hey, fun.
Right, so just for a sec. So all you want to do is you want to use your TDC slew to hover it over something you have an interest in.
Mm-hmm.
You press TMS up to set it into what's known as a point track mode, which means that it will essentially stick on a point on the ground or a moving target that it picks up, and it will stay there. And you can then press and hold TMS forward long to mark that position as the speed, assuming you have the targeting pod set as your soy.
Right, so the first thing to note is that it's not soy at the moment. Now when it comes to the TAD, you just double click the TAD again. Do I have to click the TGP again to be soy?
Yes.
Done.
Same exact procedure, and voila, you got the green thing around the outside.
Right, so it's now my centre of interest. Right, so right TMS short holds the position, is that right?
TMS forward short will activate point mode, which will basically target a point on the ground and keep the camera terrain locked there.
So that's forward. Okay, I'm going to try and get this building here. It's harder than it looks. Okay, I got the building, and then should I do long to get SPI?
Yes, that point will now become your SPI.
Okay, I did long. I've got nothing really indicating that it's become the speed, but I guess it's worked.
Yeah, so look on your TAD, you should see the SPI indicator, which is what you refer to as the little castle thing.
It's got a triangle in front and a line coming off of it, and if I look on TAD, it is a castle, so somehow it's just suddenly started working for some reason, but okay.
You probably eventually found the right key.
Okay, so we have what we think is a SPI there, and yep. Right.
Yes.
What's next on the agenda then?
Right, so as you mentioned earlier, you can also add marks the same way you do on the TAD. So yeah, if you press TMS right short, it adds a mark point, which is useful if you need to designate something you want to come back to later. A couple of other things to note about the TGP, and those are the DMS control keys. Let me just double check that.
Roger, is that something we would have set up on the hat switch?
Sorry, these are China hat, not DMS, it's China hat.
Roger, I better go and set myself an autopilot standby. Bing. Autopilot hold on. Right, China hat. I've got to go and research that quickly. Standby.
Let me know when you've set up the China hat controls, and then we'll come back to that.
China hat is set up, and I'm currently locked onto the point, and I'm looking at my TGP.
Right, so press China hat forward short, I think it is.
China hat forward short. Done, and it seemed to zoom in or move or something on my TGP.
Yeah. So as you'll note, it's actually got two sets of variable zoom levels. So you've got a wide one and a narrow field of view for your camera. Kind of like in the Schwal that's available on the KA50 and the SU25T, the outer one is wide and the inner one is narrow.
Is that what the China hat does in this case then?
That's what China hat right does in this particular case. If you press China hat aft, sorry, this is what China hat forward does. If you press China hat aft, it will reset your TGP to undesignate the ground and be centered in front of you again.
Oh, so that is how you could kind of, what I describe as cancelling the lock.
You essentially reset the TGP. It's important because the TGP has realistic roll limitations. The camera is essentially rolling inside of its pod there, and eventually it reaches a roll limit, which is about 3 360-degree rotations on it where it simply can't turn anymore. So sometimes you have to reset it and let the camera roll.
Crappy design, but okay.
Not really, it's just physical limitations.
Just snagging wires and stuff at that point, I guess.
Something along those lines.
Okay, so I mean, I'm in the annoying position at the moment of my TGP is just staring at the inside of my wing, so I'm not really seeing anything at the moment, but
yeah, so that is a reality with any aircraft that's carrying a laser designator, which is why you typically want to be in an orbit whereby your aircraft wing will not interfere with the spotting or the lasing.
Yeah, it's because I'm so low, that's why. If I was up high, this wouldn't be a problem. I do have one thing. My
yes.
my speed point, I don't like it. I've actually missed the building. Is there any way to drag it, slew it slightly to get onto the building a bit better?
So, assuming that... Well, actually, that's a good point. About your speed, give me a second. So, if your speed is still attached to the targeting pod, then it will follow the targeting pod at all times.
Roger.
Speaking of which, the way you can tell what your SPI is set up on is if you look in the HUD, you see that thing in the bottom left, that text, the one that we saw was saying steer point earlier.
Roger.
That
So
is
TGP.
actually telling you what your SPI is based on. So for the moment, mine is actually based on the targeting pod.
Roger. A firm.
So if you ever need to figure out whether your SPI has actually caught the targeting pod or not, you just look at the HUD and see whether the bottom left says TGP.
Roger. I'm just going to unwind the camera. So what about moving this speed slightly to be a bit more where I want it?
You just put the camera where you want it, you set it as SPI, and the SPI will follow your camera until you set it to something else.
And how do I move my camera? Slew or?
TDC slew, the same way you would...
Yeah, I've done it. Right, okay. Yeah, I just moved it. I'm happy that's right bang on the building now. Okay, so that's understood, kind of.
Right, so let's say, for example, you wanted to now look at something else, but you wanted to keep track of the building, right?
Okay.
You would just place a mark point using the TGP. That mark point would be saved on the map, and you could come back to it at any time you wanted.
Roger.
What else is there to talk about? So, TMS forward long, oh, sorry, not for long, for short. What it does is it essentially switches the camera between two modes. Point, which is typically the mode you want to use when targeting something like a building or a vehicle, and area mode, which is a less specific targeting mode. If you're going to lock something up, you typically want to press TMS forward short in order to set it to point mode, get it over the target to confirm that it is locked up, and then press TMS forward long in order to make it the SPI. Now, there is one other thing that we need to cover regarding the TGP, and that is laser designation. So if you go back to the switches panel, the laser arm switch is just left of TGP on, so arm the laser.
Laser armed.
Right. If you go back to the TGP on the right side, below where it says laser LSS, it should now say LSR.
Okay.
What that is, it's essentially deciding what's being fired out of the designator. Either laser, infrared light, which is like the attachments you have on your armor rifles, or both. Now, unfortunately, infrared does not properly designate at the moment, so you're only ever going to want to use laser.
Roger.
You should also see on the white text on the display, it should say L, which indicates that the laser is active and ready to laze. Now, the A-10 has an ability to set up its laser-guided bombs in such a way that the laser designator will automatically begin lasing at 15 seconds or more to impact, depends on how many seconds prior you set it up to do. You'll also see that there is an L in the HUD indicating the laser is available. When the laser is actually designating, that L will start flashing.
Roger.
So, where's the laser code? Oh yes, it's still at the bottom underneath the grid coordinates, so now you know exactly which code you're going to laser with.
Tally.
Now, the key control to actually designate with the laser is the Nosewheel Steering button, oddly enough.
Right.
So press and hold the Nosewheel Steering button and the L will start flashing.
Roger, hang on, I gotta go and just check my controls. Let's try and get myself in a safe orbit. It's on. Right, let's go and find... I'm pretty sure I remember it actually. I'm gonna press it now. Pressed it and it's had a flashing L for a second and then it went.
Yes, you press and hold it to continuously designate.
Pressing and holding and it's constantly flashing. Roger.
Yeah, so that's how you do laser designation in the A10. Hang on, let me check my stores, see if I can demonstrate. I do not have any GPUs, so I cannot demonstrate.
Roger.
Oh no, I do have a GPU 12, never mind. I'm gonna quickly just select that and get into CCRP mode.
So when when that's flashing, is that the laser's on?
Yes, well, it's designating specifically. If it's not flashing, then the laser is ready to designate.
Roger. On the right hand side I've got a number that's counting down. I wonder if... Do you get that?
Of what?
Oh, so I've got L and then T, which we were talking about. And on the right of that is a number that's counting down, but maybe you don't
I
that.
believe that is time to target. So basically how long it'll take you in order to get over that area.
Can I zoom out again for China Hat Forward?
China Hat. Yes, there is some other keys that you can use to control the zoom as well, so let's go over those. Just give me a second.
That's very annoying when you've the camera shoots through your own wing. It's what a pain in the arse.
Yeah, it's a very real problem. So like the lantern pod on the F-14, they actually have markings on the camera which indicates where the laser will be blocked by the aircraft. Right, so yeah, now we want to use the DMS forward and aft controls. So what those do is control the zoom levels of all your sensors. So what they'll do for the targeting part is they will zoom the camera in and out at a certain level, and they can be combined with the China Hat forward switch.
So that's DMS forward and aft, yeah?
Yes.
I would try it if I wasn't looking through my own goddamn wing. Oh yeah, okay, I'm zooming in my own wing, but I can see that it works. Zooming in,
yes.
Zooming out, zooming in. Yeah, and it tells me the zoom I've got there as well. Okay, that's pretty cool. It's a good old camera, this is.
Yes, it's very useful for designation. That's why the C is so dependable, because you can have it do a variety of jobs and spot and designate for itself and other aircraft. Having the F-18 with similar capacity will be nice. Alright, so let me think, is there anything else? There shouldn't be. I think we've covered all.
How do you change the laser code? I know we'll be going through it when we drop laser bombs, but out of interest, change the laser code.
Alright, so I'm just loading up my system again, but if you go to the top of the TGP, one of the buttons says control.
Roger.
Click that button, it should bring up a page which has a couple of things related to the laser. So the one is the actual laser code, and the other is the laser spot search. So it's searching for a specific laser code.
Oh, I see. So if you were bombing off someone else's laser.
Exactly.
So if I want to change my laser, I click on 168AL?
No, remember, the way you do this is you first input the data that you want into the computer setting, and then you select which field you want to input it to.
On the UFC?
Yeah, so let's just say 1571.
And input. It works, German. It actually worked. Wow. Nice.
Right. And that basically covers the majority of the TGP functionality. It does, however, have the neat feature of any unit that's data linked on the ground, like a friendly unit that has a data link, JTAC for example, will actually be marked by a green cross. Roger. Which basically means, please don't shoot at me.
Roger, noted. Cool.
It won't stop you from shooting at them, but you don't really have many excuses after that.
Okay, are we ready to go and start dropping some dumb weapons next?
Yeah, you best land so long.
Right, I'm going to go, and that's the end of that video. I know it's not doing all the functionality, but again, we're covering the majority of the functionality, all the essentials. Right, I'm going to go, next video is firing dumb weapons. We're going to go and rearm. We'll see you later.